Hey everybody, this is Butterbean, my figure 8 puffer, having his dinner of a ram's horn snail. He made pretty short work of it tonight. So tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about brackish water. I was doing a little bit of research reading about my red-clawed mangrove crabs, and while I was not able to actually find the information I was looking for, I did come across a web page that gave some bad information, and it gave it in a way that was almost accurate, and it was said in a tone of great confidence. And too many times people take great confidence for they must know what they're talking about. So what this web page was saying, it was talking about the red-clawed crabs, not this figure 8 puffer here. But it was talking about how they needed to be in brackish water, despite the fact that they're often sold as freshwater animals. The same can be said for these figure 8 puffers here. They're often sold as freshwater, but they really do need to be in brackish water for the long term. They can stay in freshwater for fairly long periods of time, months at a time even, but for their long-term health, they really do need to be in brackish water. So it was all right and accurate up to that part. But then it went on to say that in order to make brackish water, you needed to add not table salt, but either aquarium salt or kosher salt. Now that's wrong. And it's wrong in a couple of ways. For one, table salt basically is aquarium salt. The only real difference is often table salt will have anti-caking agents in it and will also have iodide in it, and that's why it's usually referred to as iodized salt. But it's still sodium chloride. It's still effectively the same thing when you say aquarium salt or kosher salt. In fact, the reason kosher salt is often recommended is because of the kosher rules. There's nothing added to it. It's just pure sodium chloride, the same as what would be sold as aquarium salt. It just costs a lot more money when you buy it with the name aquarium salt. When you're making brackish water, you have to use marine salts, not aquarium salts. Aquarium salts just makes your water saltier. I know that gets a little confusing, and I'm going to get into a few different aspects that are also kind of confusing, and hopefully I'm going to clear some of them up. So in order to make brackish water, we need marine salts. So that is not the same as what you can purchase at your grocery store as sea salt. Sea salt is the same as aquarium salt or table salt. It's simply sodium chloride. It's called sea salt because of where it's derived, rather than being mined out of the ground like table salt typically is. This is salt that's derived from evaporating seawater and taking the sodium chloride that's left over, and you've still got sodium chloride, you just got it from ocean water, and now you can call it sea salt, and you can charge people a lot more money for it because it was a lot more labor intensive and expensive to get, and so on and so forth. But sea salt, kosher salt, aquarium salt, sodium chloride, that's all more or less the same stuff. The only slight difference is the tiny little additives. I will also note on the additives, while I myself don't use regular iodized table salt, you can if you really have to. The tiny trace amounts of iodide that are in that salt would mean that in order for you to put enough iodide in that tank to have any impact on your fish, you would have long ago pickled them in brine. So I don't use it myself just because there's no real need to, but just to be clear, you don't have to panic by just using regular old table salt. There's not enough of those other agents in there. When you're talking about using like a teaspoon per gallon, you're simply not putting enough in there to have any impact whatsoever. So at a real pinch, if you really needed to just use salt in your aquarium, you could use regular old iodized table salt. Although, again, I don't recommend it, and it's so easy to not have to use it. You can buy kosher salt. I don't even buy kosher salt. I simply buy non-iodized table salt, and it's just sodium chloride. There's nothing in it. And then when I need aquarium salts, that's what I use. It's just sodium chloride. So, marine salts are something different. Marine salts are what you use to make ocean water or seawater. If you've got a saltwater tank or if you've got a coral reef tank, that's what you would use to mix up your ocean water or your seawater, is you use these marine salts. And they have a whole cocktail of different mineral salts in them. Sodium chloride is simply one of many different mineral salts. We use it so frequently, we simply refer to it as salt. But, magnesium chloride is salt, and potassium chloride is salt. There's lots and lots and lots of different stuff out there that are salts. And when you have the marine salts, when you're mixing up your ocean water, your seawater, that's what you're mixing together. You're mixing together a cocktail of these different mineral salts being dissolved into the water, and that's what makes brackish water. Now, the reason it's called brackish and not marine water is because the concentration of those salts is not high enough to constitute marine water. It's somewhere in between the salinity of fresh water and the salinity of ocean water. In nature, you will find brackish environments in estuaries, bays, harbors, wherever rivers flow into bodies of salt water, and you've got a natural mixing. A lot of places where the tidal flow will bring salt water up a river, and then when the tide goes back out, the river goes back into being more fresh water. All of these areas are where you find brackish water naturally. So the salts that are in the water are most definitely marine salts, not just sodium chloride. So if you ever see something saying that sodium chloride or table salts or anything like that is what you mix to make brackish water, that is not accurate. You can add a little bit of aquarium salt if you've got mollies. Mollies do prefer to be in brackish water, but if you can't put them in brackish water because you've got them with other freshwater fish, if those freshwater fish can tolerate a little bit of aquarium salt, go ahead and put them in there. It'll help the molly, but it still will not be a substitute for actual brackish water. The same can be said for the mineral salts you would use if you were making hard water for African cichlids, where you're using your Epsom salts, for example. That does not make brackish water. That will make the water harder, and you're getting closer to brackish water. And if you had a fish like a molly that would prefer to be in brackish water, if you could put it in a little bit harder water, that's certainly going to be better than putting it in softer water. But in order to be brackish, you actually need the full array of all of the variety of marine salts that you would get in seawater. You just need it in slightly lower concentrations than you would typically get in seawater. So, I hope that cleared a few things up and didn't make it even more confusing. Remember, sodium chloride is table salt. It's also what we call aquarium salt. It's also kosher salt. When you see iodized salt, water softener salt, all of that is simply sodium chloride. Marine salts are what you need for brackish water. So, thanks again. Don't forget, this one is my brackish tank. Make sure you're subscribed. I'll see you real soon in the next one.